When I was in grade 10, something happened that would stay with me for the rest of my life. We had a new English teacher join our school. His name was Mr. Scott. From the moment he walked into the classroom, everything felt different. He was young, perhaps in his mid-20s, and carried himself with confidence and kindness. With his dark hair, kind brown eyes, and warm smile, it was no surprise that he quickly became the most talked about teacher in school. Unlike many teachers who seemed strict and unapproachable, Mr. Scott had a unique way of connecting with students. He genuinely cared. During lessons, he didn't just teach. He told stories that brought literature to life. I'll never forget the way he explained poetry. His words painted vivid pictures in my mind, making me fall in love with English for the first time. Outside the classroom, Mr. Scott remained humble and professional. Even though some of the younger teachers seemed to gravitate toward him, he kept his focus on teaching. His classroom always felt welcoming, like a little haven where learning was enjoyable. I was a quiet and shy girl. While my classmates giggled and tried to impress him with jokes or playful questions, I stayed reserved. I admired him from a distance, focusing on my studies. I never missed a class and always submitted my homework on time, hoping he'd notice my effort. One day, Mr. Scott asked me to read an essay I had written aloud to the class. My heart pounded as I stood up. I was nervous, my voice shaky, but I did my best. When I finished, he clapped and said, "Well done, Emma. That was beautifully written." His praise felt like a warm hug. For the first time, I felt seen, appreciated, and proud of my work. As the months went by, I found myself thinking about Mr. Scott more and more. I even started walking past his house, which wasn't far from my neighborhood, just to catch a glimpse of him. If he happened to be outside, he'd smile and say hello. Those brief moments brightened my day, but then everything changed. At the start of grade 11, we learned that Mr. Scott was leaving the school. He had accepted a new job in another city. When I heard the news, it felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. The teacher who had inspired me, who had become the center of my little world, was gone. For months, I struggled to adjust. My grades dropped, and my enthusiasm for school faded. But life has a way of moving forward, whether we're ready or not. Soon, I found myself focused on preparing for university entrance exams. To improve my English skills, I joined extra classes at a local academy. On my first day, I walked into the classroom and froze. Standing at the front of the room was Mr. Scott. My heart skipped a beat. He recognized me instantly and smiled. "Welcome back, Emma," he said. I couldn't believe it. Fate had brought us together again. For the next 6 months, I worked harder than ever in his class. This time, I wasn't just a shy student. I participated, asked questions, and stayed back after lessons to talk with him. We spoke about life, dreams, and the future. He became more than a teacher to me. He became a mentor. One rainy evening, he offered to walk me home. I hesitated, but agreed. As we walked under the dim streetlights, the sound of rain tapping on our umbrellas, we talked about everything and nothing. It felt magical, like a scene from a movie. Our bond deepened over time. We started meeting outside of class. We'd go to parks, watch movies, or simply sit and talk for hours. I cherished every moment, convinced that I had found my soulmate. But life had other plans. One day, Mr. Scott told me he had been offered a teaching position in the United States. He was leaving again. This time, the pain was sharper. We promised to stay in touch, exchanging addresses and vowing to write letters. For the first few months, his letters arrived like clockwork. Each one was filled with stories of his new life and encouraging words for me. But as time passed, the letters became less frequent. I started college, and life grew busier. Eventually, the letters stopped altogether. 8 years went by. One day, out of curiosity, I searched for Mr. Scott on social media. To my surprise, I found him. Hesitantly, I sent him a message. He replied almost immediately, and we arranged to meet at a cafe. When I saw him again, I felt a mix of emotions. He looked older, his face lined with the passage of time. He was still kind and warm, but the spark I had once felt was gone. We talked for hours, reminiscing about the past, but I realized something important. I had outgrown my feelings for him. Meeting him again helped me understand how much I had changed. The shy, dreamy girl who once idolized her teacher was now a confident woman with her own goals and dreams. A week later, he sent me a message saying, "It was lovely meeting you. I hope we can stay friends." I replied with a simple, heartfelt message. "Thank you for everything, Mr. Scott. Wishing you all the best." That evening, as I walked in the park, it began to rain. The drops reminded me of the time he had walked me home in the rain. I smiled to myself, realizing how far I had come. Life is like the rain, sometimes cold and unexpected, but it nourishes us and helps us grow. Mr. Scott will always hold a special place in my heart, not as the man I thought I loved, but as the teacher who inspired me to believe in myself. Life moves on, bringing new people and new dreams. The best moments often come when we least expect them. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more heartfelt tales.